Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot. It has been quite some time, so let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, before we get started, if my eyebrows look like they've been attacked, that's because they kind of have. I had a bit of an accident with a trimmer, and so I kind of look a little bit messed up right now. So some of you will have seen a video I posted a while back, which is about the fact that I decided to try an SSRI antidepressant for my anxiety. That SSRI was called Escitalopram, and I promised that I would give you guys an update on how my experience with that has been. So this is going to be both a bit of an explainer for where I've been these last few months and an update on that experience. Suffice to say, it has not been good. During the first week on the antidepressant, I started to see some signs that my anxiety was lifting. I had some moments during certain days where I started to feel like how I used to feel before I was crippled by social anxiety all of the time. And I thought this was promising, especially because I'd read that people who respond to antidepressants earlier, in other words, people who get some sort of positive benefit in the first couple of weeks, tend to do better on them overall. But alas, it was not to be. By the third week, I started to develop some crippling fatigue. I felt like I had just no energy whatsoever. Now, I've struggled with symptoms like this for a long time. I have always had very low energy levels and I've had a hard time motivating myself to do things. But by week 3 of this antidepressant, it was just, I don't even have the words to describe it. I was struggling to even get out of bed, and in fact I spent most of my days in bed. I stopped working on videos, I stopped working out, as you can probably see. I stopped doing anything productive whatsoever. Basically all that I could do was rot in bed all day. But the thing with antidepressants is they can take some time to work and it can take some time for the side effects to go away. I did lots and lots of reading online about people's experiences and what the typical time frame was. It seemed to me that most people reported that by week 4 or week 6 they were starting to feel a lot better. So I was in week 3 at this point and I thought, you know what, week 4 is 1 week away, I can hack it. And if it's week 6, that's 3 weeks, maybe I can do that. So I waited for week 4. Week 4 came along and if anything I felt worse. Week 5 came along and I still felt really bad. Now week 6 came along and finally I got some relief. During week 6 I had moments where I started to feel energy again. I was being productive again. I even got a couple of workouts in for the first time in several weeks. And at this point I thought, you know what, maybe this antidepressant is working. I just had to wait and give it some time to work. And during this time, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I was having lots and lots of lucid dreams. I thought that SSRI antidepressants would actually decrease your chances of lucid dreaming because they're supposed to decrease your time spent in REM. But to me, the effect has been the absolute opposite of that. I have had crazy dreams every night, and I've been lucid consistently almost every single night, often multiple lucid dreams per night, without doing any techniques whatsoever. So that was great, but I wanted to see some anxiety relief as well, and in week 6 I did see a bit of that. I remember going out, and believe it or not, for me, going out of the house, just that alone is a really difficult task. In fact, it got so bad last year that for the entirety of last year, up to October, I was not leaving the house at all. It wasn't until I got in therapy that I started leaving the house again. But I had left the house during week 6 of this medication, and I'd gone on a walk, and I remember thinking, you know what, I feel calm. I am not actually bothered by the people that I'm walking past and so on. Normally I would have thoughts that like this person is judging me, they're looking at what I'm wearing, they're looking at how I look, they're thinking this and that, and I would have all of these thoughts and I would get really anxious. I would start to have like my heart racing, I would start to sweat and all sorts. And it was just a very miserable experience. But here I was feeling calm and I thought, you know what, this is actually working. And then week 7 rolled around. Now, it wasn't like precisely on the dot when week 7 rolled around. It was like, maybe near the end of week 6 or, a couple of days into week 7. But the energy disappeared again. I went back to feeling like how I felt in week 3. And I also noticed that the calm feeling was gone as well. I was feeling a little bit of anxiety relief, I'll give it that. And one other thing that I noticed was I was ruminating a lot less. I will say that if you have a problem with ruminating all the time, like you lay in bed awake at night thinking about all of those things that you've done in the years past that are like cringe memories and so on, if you have a trouble with that, then based on my experience I can recommend an SSRI to you. It massively helped me with that. But the rest of my anxiety was like maybe reduced by 5%, something like that. And when week 7 rolled around, I was just so tired again. I stopped working out again, I stopped doing anything productive, and I probably spent like 80 to 90% of that week just in bed, literally just laying in bed on my phone, like scrolling social media and chatting with people. It was really pretty miserable. And that was the other thing. I noticed that since about week 3 of the medication, I started to enjoy things less. I started to notice that when I was doing activities that I normally like playing a game or reading a book or watching a TV show, that I just wasn't enjoying them. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just boring, basically. Everything was boring, and I wasn't feeling any sort of fun. And it was like, all of the fun was just like sucked out of me, basically. And I tried doing different activities. I thought maybe trying to be a bit productive will actually make me enjoy things. But there was no reward from being productive. I didn't feel that good sensation that you feel after you've done something productive, like to have got something done. I didn't feel that at all. Not to mention that I had so little energy that it was just a gargantuan chore to get like the simplest little productive thing done in the first place. And this feeling continued over the weeks. I was kind of numb. Now I know what people mean when they say that SSRIs numb you. My emotions weren't completely numbed, but the positive ones mostly were. That was the thing. It wasn't that I was completely numb emotionally. It wasn't like it got rid of all of the bad and it got rid of all the good. It mostly just got rid of all of the good. I wasn't feeling happy anymore. I wasn't feeling any sort of enjoyment. But I was still feeling sad. I was still dealing with depression symptoms, which were actually worsening. So I was experiencing all of this negative, and I wasn't able to experience any of the positive anymore. And that really worried me. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to read a bit more about this. Maybe for some people it took longer than 6 weeks to get to the good part. And I did some reading, and I did see some people who said, you know, it took 7 weeks or it took 8 weeks. And basically the number that I settled on that I would give it in the end was 3 months. I figured that's enough time to figure out whether this thing is actually working for me, whether the side effects are too much. And week 8 came, wasn't feeling any better. Week 9 came, wasn't feeling any better. And I stuck it out to the 3-month point, and honestly, it was miserable the entire time. I did not feel any joy, I did not feel any positive emotions during that time. I just felt pretty miserable. I was in a position where I just wasn't even liking being alive at this point. The only thing that I looked forward to at all was the end of the day, so that the day would be over, the misery could end, and I could go to sleep and have some lucid dreams. But the days themselves were just miserable, they were tiring, and yeah. I wasn't getting anything done, I was like regressing massively. So a little over a month ago, the 3-month mark came, and no improvement had happened. I was just feeling absolutely miserable on this medication. It had put me in a much worse place than I'd been in before, and it hadn't been helping my symptoms more than like 5%, maybe that. So I decided to go to my psychiatrist. I went to my psychiatrist and I basically said, look, this medication is not working for me. I do not want to be on it. And quite frankly, after that experience and you know how long the adjustment period is, and with the fact that I didn't even adjust to it and went through all of those months for nothing, I don't think I want to try another SSRI. So I talked to her about some possibilities of some other medications. We both agreed for me to try a different medication that's not an SSRI called pregabalin, sometimes known as Lyrica in the USA. In the US, it's mainly prescribed for nerve pain, but in Europe, it's a common medication used for anxiety. And I got on that just over a month ago, the same day I had my psychiatrist appointment. And I think I'll make a whole new video talking about my experiences with that and whether or not that affects lucid dreaming. But suffice to say, so far that's been a much better experience than what this SSRI has been. So as well as getting on that new medication, I also got a taper plan to get off the SSRI, and I did a 3-week taper, and then I got off the SSRI about 2-3 weeks ago now. I'm not sure the exact length of time. I have had withdrawal symptoms. I have had these like weird tingling sensations through my body. It kind of feels like when your arm or your leg is going numb after you've like sat on it or something. Like it feels like the start of that sensation, and it starts in my head and it goes down my whole body, and I feel almost like I'm falling for a moment when it happens. Initially I thought that was what a brain zap was, because I'd read all these experiences of people having brain zaps in SSRI withdrawals, and I was getting these weird sensations throughout the day. But then I went on and had an actual brain zap, and the minute that I had an actual brain zap, I knew it was a brain zap, because it was like this electric shock sensation to the head. It was like this big shock to my head, this big electrical sensation, and there was this sound almost like a bell being hit, or like something clanging, and then this ringing in my right ear that persisted for like the next 30 seconds. And when it happened, it felt like I lost consciousness briefly for a few seconds and then came back to, and I felt like really, really weird. I had this weird sensation afterwards, and it reminded me of when I've had a seizure in the past. After I had a seizure in the past, I had this like weird sensation. It was just like everything was kind of unfamiliar and weird. And I had that after I had the brain zap. So that really scared me. Thankfully, I have not had another one since. I just had the one of those. I've been having some heightened anxiety. I've had a couple of panic attacks. But I did have an increased number of panic attacks on the SSRI as well, so it's not really any worse than it was when I was on it. But I would say overall the withdrawals haven't been too bad. And I think that was helped by the fact that I did a 3-week taper, plus the fact that I was only on it for 3 months. I don't feel back to 100% though. I still feel like I've barely got any energy. I still feel like I'm barely getting any joy out of activities. But I've noticed that's starting to come back. In fact, today, for the very first time since I started that SSRI, I realised that I was watching something on YouTube and I was actually having fun watching it. I haven't felt that in months. It was really weird just feeling the sensation of joy, of fun again for the first time in months. And a little bit of energy has come back, like I'm making this video right now when I haven't made videos in months. I haven't started exercising again yet, and that was another issue, by the way, with the SSRI. I stopped exercising completely, as I mentioned earlier, but I also stopped eating, and I lost 15 pounds, I think, during the 3 months that I was on it. So as you can notice, I've gotten a bit skinnier than I was. So I'm back to eating again, but I haven't started exercising again yet. I have started meditating again though, and I've been journaling and trying to be a little bit more productive. I cleaned up my space a bit today because it was kind of a mess. I feel like I still might have a few weeks of recovery left, but overall I'm in a much better place than I was when I was on the medication. And as I mentioned, I think the new medication is helping me. Again, I will make a dedicated video for that at some point. But yeah, that's where I have been for the last couple of months. I have been basically in bed all day, not doing anything whatsoever. And I'm hoping that now that my energy is slowly starting to come back, that will not be a problem anymore. Now, the downside of coming off the medication is now I am having to go back to using techniques to lucid dream again. The automatic lucid dreams that I was getting every night without using techniques have stopped over the last few weeks. At first it just decreased a little bit, but now it's stopped entirely. So I've decided that I'm going to be going back to all of my techniques that I was using before I got on this medication. Anyway, that's been a bit of an update from me. How are you guys? Let me know how you've been doing the last few months. What are you struggling with right now? What are you trying to achieve right now? And how has your lucid dreaming been going? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, I massively appreciate those of you who've stuck around with the channel and who are watching this video and who haven't abandoned ship after I was gone for so long. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for your support. If you want more videos like this one, make sure you subscribe and enable all notifications so you can stay up to date when my new videos come out. And if you want to keep watching, check out one of those videos on screen. Go watch that and I'll see you there soon. Take care and have some awesome lucid dreams.